welcome to the Brosen. We have yet another amazing episode this week. I am joined as always by my adventurous Adam Drake.
That's me. What's up? I like that.
My BG boy Ben Stockton.
Hello.
Okay. My marvelous Mitch Hudson.
Hi.
And of course the whimsical Willie Mellina.
Yep.
And I of course am the Nepo baby Sam Jenkins.
Yes. Thank you, Sam.
Yes. Joining us this week is our second female bro, the wonderful, amazing Mary Magdalene herself, Liz Tabish. Hello,
Welcome, Liz.
Lovely to be here.
Liz, we are so excited that you are here. Thank you for having chosen the Brosen after you spend all your time with many of other bros on the show, 12 to be exact. But no, I want to thank you for joining a few more.
Yeah, it's a heavy show, isn't it?
It's a very bro heavy
bit.
show. What is that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know, there's you and Tamar and Rayma for most of it. And no
Mother Mary.
Yeah, Mother
Right.
Mary, yeah.
Martha Mary.
That's
You
true.
had
yeah.
Rayma, but not anymore.
There's a lot of Marys.
So-
Right. We've got the Sisters of Bethany, but it does seem like it's a lot of kind of you with the guys. What is that like as an actress, and also just I don't know, and even also in real life,
Human.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. It's one of those shows that it doesn't really feel like you're not like counting how many guys and how many girls. It's just like the group dynamic. When we first started, it was such a small little group, and it just felt like family, like immediately. And then it's just grown every single season. It's just like more and more people, but it doesn't ever really feel like, oh no, there's so many more guys and not enough girls. Like, it doesn't really feel like that. It just feels like there's more love every time there's like more people on set. The family keeps getting bigger. And I grew up with lots of uncles and guys around, and so it feels very familiar and very fun. The guys on our show are hilarious. They're so funny.
Yeah.
So there's like, I would say the blessing and the curse is that like they're always funny. So you're always trying to stay in character while they're, you know, kind of saying some funny things like right before we shoot, or like it's just like very lively and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the truest thing I've ever heard of you saying that that the guys are like, it's a blessing and a curse. The I don't know, the kind of like comedic approach that a lot of the other actors take, especially while they're getting into character. I know everyone gets into character in different ways, but it does seem like a lot of them can kind of be off to the side being like, oh, did you guys play that video game? Dude, that one part when this happened, and action. Right, so Rabbi. You know, just like right kind of into it. But I know everyone works differently. So yeah, it does seem like that's unique.
Sometimes, and it depends on the scene too. Like if it's a very serious scene, there's like a sort of unspoken rule where everyone just sort of has this mutual respect for each other to like kind of focus on that scene. But some of the scenes, especially like the last few seasons, when there's just so many group scenes and we don't have a lot to say and we're kind of background, it can get really easy to just like start getting the giggles and like try to hide it. I think there was one scene we were just like lost in the crowd. It was me and Lotta and Amber and Paris and Jordan. And we had to duck behind the extras because we were laughing so hard. We were like crying and like the camera was there. We just have to hide ourselves and not be seen right now.
That's incredible.
Liz, I remember a moment when it was a scene where Matthew and Peter come to find you again after you went back to the Hammer. and the scene was pretty emotional, and that you vomit in. But I remember in that scene you cracking jokes like right before your close up. Like you were like cracking up with the crew, making jokes, and I was like, she's in this like super serious scene, and she's over here, and then boom, you're just right in the scene. So I think it's pretty impressive how you can pull that off.
I don't even remember.
In Utah, right?
Yeah, in Utah.
Yeah.
That was Utah, and it was freezing. I think I was just like trying to get through it. And I was really nervous for that scene too. I was anxious to do that right. And then, I don't know, turning to Paris and like seeing his sweet eyes and just like melting and getting him. It was easy to because I used to sort of like put myself in heavy emotional states kind of all day and like the day before a scene like that. And then I think that was the first time that I got to experience like, oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to hurt yourself to play hurt. And you can really trust the writing and then also trust the other actors, and like just looking at both of them and like feeling the moment instead of trying to like attain something, try to like make it a certain way. I kind of got to just react to them. And that was kind of a pivotal moment for me of like, oh, I'm working with really good actors, so I can trust a little bit more than feel some need to like control the scene. And so, yeah, that was a very memorable, that part was memorable. I don't remember making jokes, so.
Well, I think what's pretty amazing, I've seen you do that many times where it's an emotional scene even for you. You're not background and you're still just kind of hanging out with the crew and being fun. We all have that perspective from you of like, it's not like you're having to set yourself aside and get in that moment, which is incredible. And then you walk into the scene and boom, you start crying instantly. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did she turn that on?
I think that's a new thing for me. I really, and that was the scene where everything changed. Like, I think it's kind of nice to have a respite from the emotion and like go off and just be reminded of all the really wonderful good things and like be in a lighthearted state and then go back into something a little heavier.
Wow. Yeah.
Instead of staying in it. And that's just something that's been very new in the last few years for me, and kind of a gift too, because it's a little less intense and takes a little less from you emotionally.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it's sort of like each take going back into it feels a little fresher and new because you're not like staying in it. So that might be where that's coming from.
I will say, I think as we're hearing all this, it's very clear how like fun and energetic and kind Liz is on set, which is why I was telling the boys before this, I'm going to finally say something that I never have told anyone about Liz Tabish for the first time, and no one knows.
Sure
I just told my father.
You sure it's not Tabish?
It's not. I know it's not Tabish because I did my research. Unlike
Thanks,
Willie.
guys. Yeah, I don't know how to say her last name. I was nervous, man. I didn't put on deodorant. I'm stinky.
I told my dad this for the first time, and he was like, "Why?" So, Liz, I've pretty much known you since the entirety of the show, since the very beginning, up until when Adam and I were with you on Christmas Pageant. And I will say, you were the only person in season 1 that I was genuinely intimidated by and scared of because of how powerful you are in those scenes and how like wonderful of an actress you are. I could not say hello to you for a while without shaking and being genuinely terrified. And so I think it took me a while.
That's so embarrassing, Sam.
So it's I don't understand it at all because you are one of the nicest and like most sweet person ever. I could not say hello to you for the very first like run of the show because I was like, "Hi Liz, it's good to see you. Hi, good to meet you." And then like I got over it because you're awesome. So I was like, who am I to even have a conversation? So I was like, yeah, no one has known this. And I told my dad that, and he was like, "Why were you intimidated and scared of Liz?" I was like, "Because she's so, I don't know."
She crushed it. Come on.
Yep. That's right. I didn't talk to Liz for 2 seasons either. I was so scared as well.
It's embarrassing. I don't understand
First
why.
team stepping on set. Nobody look.
Sam like immediately leaves.
Nobody look.
to be fair, season 1, Mary Magdalene is kind of horrifying.
Yes.
Like episode 1, those Lilith scenes are like pretty spooky, and I probably really wouldn't want to go say hi to that actor either.
Well, that's actually one of my questions, Liz. I'd love to talk about is that scene. I'm sure you've talked about it many times, but that first Lilith scene. Do you remember that we shot that on Halloween?
Yeah. I do, Adam. I do.
Awesome.
I hated it.
That's why Sam was so scared of her.
Nervous.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember, because we've talked about it on this podcast, do you remember me wearing cat ears on that day?
She was so good. She was focused on her performance, brother.
That's right. She was lost in the character.
Listen, I've been carrying it for 6 years. I was concerned that I highly distract you because Mitch made a dare and I wore these cat ears. I looked like an idiot all day. And I was like, I hope she doesn't hate me for wearing these dumb cat ears while she's trying to do this serious scene.
Didn't affect the performance. Come on.
I don't remember any of that. I just remember knowing that I had to film that possession scene on Halloween, and I had to go back to a creepy hotel. By my
Mitch doesn't know anything about that.
Were you in the Quality Inn? Were you in the Weatherford Quality Inn?
I was in the one with the bed bugs.
That's it.
The wild dogs and the naked baby.
The wild dogs, a naked baby, and bed bugs.
Get used to different.
Liz doesn't know. Liz doesn't know the story.
Different.
Yeah.
I only know the bed bug story from Sean. I didn't have bed bugs. I just know the motel had them. I avoided them.
In 30 seconds or less, Mitch, you should tell Liz your experience.
Yeah. I think it is interesting, what is kind of fun about the growth of the show over time is that, that first season, especially those first 4 episodes, I'm not going to say like we were roughing it. We were taken care of pretty well, but even still, that first hotel that most of the cast and crew were in was a little sketch. And it was funny that I think we were kind of all experiencing it all at the same time. I know most of the cast was there. I was there. My first, basically in short, my first time walking into that hotel, Liz, I got off the shuttle van with Raina, who plays like the little girl in episode 3. And we and her mom and I think one of the accounting ladies, and we walked in the front door. There's no one behind the desk, but what we did see, like the second the doors opened, these like wild dogs came running out of it, like ran past us, like no collars, just running right past us.
So scary.
We turned not a good sign. Took a few steps in, despite that. And then in the middle of the room, instead of seeing any hotel employees, there was no one behind the desk. What I saw was, I guess, like the breakfast cereal stand had been knocked over, and there was just cereal everywhere. And sitting in the middle of the cereal was a naked baby crying. Just sitting there, crying, cereal surrounded by Fruit Loops, surrounded by Frosted Mini Wheats, dogs having knocked everything around.
I stand by Texas being the greatest country in the world, but this is not a good performance.
And I was like,
by Texas.
We were all just standing there like, hello? We were like, do we pick up the bait? What do we do here? And then like a minute later, someone came from behind the desk and was like, I don't even know what, I think they literally were just like, Henry, and like picked up the baby and just were like, you guys here to check in? Like it was just like just a real.
Did you guys call someone?
I think I don't even know if I had the emotional capacity to process it until really this podcast.
Mitch is the writer of Boss Baby, and this is how it started.
That's it. That's right. I was like, now if I could get Alec Baldwin to voice that baby.
That is utterly bizarre. I remember I had not worked in a really, really long time. And I drove up from Georgetown, Texas, and I was just so excited that I was like staying somewhere. I didn't care.
Come on.
It was a motel. It was not a good motel, but I was like, I'm working. This was amazing. I was very excited. But looking back, not the nicest.
How far how far we've grown, right? From those days. It's certainly gotten bigger and better as it's gone on.
Liz, you mentioned you hadn't worked in a long time before you came onto The Chosen. you do have a pretty amazing story, right? That you were basically, is it true that you were basically done before you got the audition for Chosen, right?
So yeah, I mean, I had worked on commercial projects for about 7 years. That was like my bread and butter. Texas is a right to work state, so most things are non-union. So you can work on a commercial for a really big brand and not get paid very much and not have
$1,200
residuals and not seriously, yeah.
Yep.
And so as much as I thought I was working and as much as I was trying to work and get booked for things, like I still could just barely make ends meet. And I got to a point where I'm like, this is not actually what I signed up to do. This is not what drives me as an artist. This is not what I want to be doing. Like, you're just helping products be sold, but you're not telling stories. And so between that and the quality of female characters that I was getting auditions for TV shows or indie projects, they were like either bit roles or they were a little exploitative or just sort of based on what you look like, or just like whatever. It just like not real human characters. They were just very one-dimensional female characters. Between those two things, I had just had enough, and I didn't think that pursuing acting anymore was particularly healthy for me. For my mental wellness and emotional well-being, I thought this is getting to be too much. The rejection, you guys, is just so much. And then when you do book something and it's like I'm selling something for, Amazon and I'm getting paid $1,200, it just like it makes you feel like crap. It just makes you feel like you're selling out just to like it's not exactly what you go into acting for. You go into acting to like connect and communicate stories and to feel alive and to learn and grow, and just none of that was happening. So yeah, I told my agent to stop submitting me. It was like time to sort of grow up and maybe like do something practical, maybe go back to school or start teaching or just like pivot in a way that that would have just changed everything for me. And I was living with my mom at that time because I had been told I booked a commercial role, and then my agent called me and he was like, sorry, wrong Liz. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. Yeah. So after that, I left my apartment. I moved in with my mom, told my agent to stop submitting me. And he was like, I'm going to keep you on the roster just in case something special comes up. I'm like, that's not going to happen. It's never happened in 7 years. Like, it's not going to happen. But sure, fine, whatever. And then about a month later, I got for Mary Magdalene / Lilith and read the script for the audition and was just blown away by how really lovely the writing was, how really real the character was, complicated and also human and also relatable, and just kind of connected to the Lilith version of her, and was sort of in that emotional space when I auditioned. I had never really like synced up with a character like that before, where I really felt what she was feeling, this sort of despair.
Wow.
And a sense of being lost. And then, yeah, and then I got a call back a few weeks later and met Dallas, and he, whenever I left, he was like, I'm excited to work with you. I'm like, is that
Wow.
it? Did I? But I didn't want to get my hopes up, so I was like, okay, that could just be something friendly that he says. And then when I was driving home, within the hour, I got a call from my agent saying I booked it, which never never find out that quickly. So he told me later that he wanted that call back to make sure I wasn't crazy.
That's so interesting.
There's so many things I want to go through, but real quick, first and foremost, who helped you with your audition? For all those actors out there, You said no, you were stepping away, and then a month later you get this role that you read the stuff and you're like, whoa, this is good. But who helped you with that audition? Do you remember?
Do you mean like who
helped you with that
like,
self-tape?
coached me with it?
Yeah, was it Nick? I mean, you were reading.
No, so it was Brock Allen Casting in Austin, and they were doing auditions in person in Dallas.
Wow.
And so I drove up to Dallas. Actually, I turned down it was like an industrial job for like selling homes or something. It was like a home tour that I had booked, and I canceled it. I was like, I'm just not doing this because I want to go to this audition instead. So I turned down a job, which was like $500. But I was like, I got to gamble on this other thing that I really
Well, you
like,
obviously should have taken the $500, Liz.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I didn't want to self-tape either. I thought it's really, I just like, it's different going in person and like feeling the nerves of that and the excitement and the energy. And I just like, I just felt like I had to go there and be there. And I had auditioned with Brock Allen before, and they're really honest. They're really, really good with like, adjustments and feedback. And so I knew that I was like going to be in good hands to like get some feedback if I'm being too quiet or mumbling too much or whatever. And they were like, wow,
Shout out to Brock and Allen.
I must.
Yeah.
I literally just got an audition from them yesterday. Shout out to Brock and Allen. They've been with the show since the beginning stages, 2018, when you could still go in person and read. How many times did you drive up to Dallas from Georgetown or wherever you were at in those few years?
Oh, I mean, I was pursuing this for like 8 years before The Chosen, 7-8 years. It was 2012 that I moved to Austin, so I don't know how many years that is. But so yeah, going back and forth to Dallas for auditions and Houston and San Antonio. I don't like driving either. I'm like scared on the road. Like it just took. And I remember driving up for auditions and like getting there and like shaking a little bit from being on the road and just doing a really bad audition. But something about this one just felt different. I can't explain it. It just felt like I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anxious about it the way I usually am for auditions. And
I think I mean, you're obviously meant for the role. I think I speak for all the bros and I speak for everybody that's listening that we all absolutely love you as Lilith and as Mary Magdalene, and your performance is always so amazing, and we're always impressed with your work. So good.
Well, yeah, because I was terrified of her for 2 seasons.
Well, Sam, you were terrified of me too. So I mean,
right.
I legitimately, there's like, from this time that we started, there's so many things that have come up, but there's one more thing I want to touch on before somebody else takes it. Could you walk us through the genesis of, you said 2012 was when you started to do this deal, but what was the first thing? Did you see a play? Did you do a class at school, a speech class, acting class? What was the first, how did you start this deal?
Do we want to go like the very beginning?
First, anything, yeah.
Kindergarten.
Whoa.
I was a very shy child. And then in kindergarten, we did some little song and dance about dinosaurs. And like we put it on for our families. And my whole family went, my mom and dad and brother and grandparents and great grandparents at that time. And they sat there and they're like, who is this child? We don't know her. Who is this our Lizzie? And like, they were really surprised that I was like, so like I came alive on stage. And so, and I was too young to even really like comprehend what was happening, but something about being on stage made me feel more extroverted, I guess, or more lively. I don't know. But I was, and then just through the years, I've always been shy. I've always been a little anxious socially, and theater has always just had this pull and this like been the safe place to like explore the human emotion and scenarios and stories. And so like, it's always been this call throughout the years. And then, and then even into college, I wasn't planning on going into theater. And then I'd have friends like, come audition for this play. And then you do it and you fall in love with it. And it like, it wasn't until the very end of, I got my master's in theater. And at the very end of that year, the head of the department brought me into his office and he was like, you need to pursue this. I was planning on going into directing. And he was like, you got to do it now because I was 26 at the time. He was like, you're getting
What a butthead. Shout out to that person.
Yeah, it's not the first time someone said that to me.
The first time someone was really honest.
And he's just saying like, you need to go now. You need to pursue it now. Don't wait. And he was right. So, but I was broke and I didn't know how to drive on highways. And so instead of LA, I went to Austin. So that's how I ended up in Austin.
Where you got the master's, was that the same place where your friends were like, hey, audition for this show?
Yeah. It was Oklahoma State.
Oh, that's
University.
right.
It's in Stillwater.
That's
nice.
Right.
Let's go. Go Pokes.
Shout out to the Pokes.
Come
Big
on.
shout out to Go Pokes and Town and Gown Community Theater, which was like the beginning. Yeah, a lot.
Love to hear
That's
it.
so
Is that
good.
where you went, Ben? Did you go to OSU?
Yeah.
Mitch.
From Oklahoma State.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mitch.
Yep.
Guys,
I mean,
Mitch
I knew.
Hudson.
I was prompting him.
Yeah, this is Mitch Hudson, and this is Ben Stockton. Ben Stockton, meet Mitch Hudson.
Ben. Pleasure.
We're
man.
the Brosen.
Yeah,
We've chosen the Brosen.
Well,
We're really
nice to meet you,
homies.
Mitch.
This
Yeah.
whole thing about Liz.
And we're joined by our guest, Elizabeth Tabish.
Shut up, man. Shut up. So at that time, at that community theater, because I'm with you on all that, was there a show, was there a thing that like I know Kindergarten, that was a beautiful story, by the way. But was there a show, was there a role that you just said like, oh man, I want to do that again one day, or this just like made you feel at home, made you feel alive, like you said?
yeah, it might shock everyone though.
Let's hear it.
Mary
Gotta hear
Poppins.
it.
The fans and everything. Okay, so in my mid-teens, I was just about as dorky as you can get, and I theater was like this fun, cool space, but I felt too shy to go into it sometimes, so I was like always hesitant to take classes, and it was just like this push-pull thing with a lot of like stage fright and everything. But then I went to Hair.
I was going to say Hairspray. I was going to guess
Austin.
Hairspray. Keep going, sorry.
Not Hairspray, Hair.
Yeah,
The musical about all the hippies.
Long,
They've got all
beautiful
sorts of
hair.
crazy things. Yeah, everyone gets naked at some point.
Yes.
I remember going, being like, my mind blown. I was like, oh, wow, this is like, these are actors that are so fully uninhibited, not afraid of anything, really vulnerable, like putting it all out there, literally, emotionally, physically. I was just like stunned by it. I didn't know that theater could be that like shocking and political, and it just like it stuck with me. And then that's just sort of filed away. And then when I got my undergrad in film studies, and I would audition for plays and everything. But then I graduated, and I was working as a receptionist for about 2 years at a hair salon. And during that time, I was trying to, like, I was making my own little short films and, like, writing things on, sticky notes for ideas for films and stuff. But I was just a little creatively bored, maybe. And I saw that OSU Theater was putting on Hair, the musical, that next year. And something came over me. Like I broke down and just realized, like, what am I doing if I just continue to sort of pursue this? But there's something in me that's really wanting to be expressed, and there's really, like, I miss acting so much. And it really, like, it kind of like reignited and reminded me of the experience I had when I was younger, of like this sort of endless possibility of lots and lots of lives to live through acting. Just as a reminder, I'm living in Stillwater, Oklahoma, where there's not a lot to do, so you're sort of dependent on your imagination and what you create.
Working as a receptionist, it's mundane.
No, and there's nothing wrong with that. I actually really
100%.
loved doing that, but there was something else that was just calling, and so this was it, and it was I thought, you know what? Before I die, I want to be in hair. And I don't sing, I don't really dance. And so it was like this sort of invitation to like put myself into a really uncomfortable place and like be vulnerable again and like and do something that I'm not really familiar with again. And so I signed up to get my master's at OSU at that time and auditioned for hair, and I was in hair, and it was so much fun. And that's what kind of got me back into theater and back into the track of pursuing acting.
Dinosaur musical at kindergarten, hair, community theater, hair at OSU, did it, The Chosen, book it. Here we go. That is so awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So Liz, one of my favorite stories, let's take it back to season 1 again. One of my favorite stories with you is when we're out in the field, one of those field days, but back in season 1 at the very beginning, where I remember it was that really tall grass. You guys were walking to go to the woman at the well, and there's like big giant grasshoppers like the size of your fist flying everywhere. You remember like just jumping out of the field like every time you took a step, like, but you're an old Texas girl, and like so many of the guys were like literally screaming and jumping and running every time a grasshopper jumped, which was every second because there were so many, and they're just like ooh ah ooh, and you were just standing there like looking around like what's wrong with y'all? And
I gonna hurt you.
I know.
They're not like spiders like jumping at you.
Yeah. I'm an old country boy too from Tennessee too. So like, yeah, I'm just like, what's wrong with these guys? Like, what are they doing? So, but I instantly in that moment fell in love with you and was like, Liz is my absolute favorite. Don't tell the rest of them, please. But I've told you from season 1, Liz is my absolute favorite.
The strongest.
They're not watching.
That's right. Oh, you've chosen the Brosen. I don't care about that.
You're not on it. No, they're just grasshoppers. They're not going to hurt you. That's all.
I was going to say, you've had a lot of like moments where I'm just like, dang, Liz is tough. Like in terms of like, you're just like, I don't know, you're like you're very like fearless, and it's very impressive. But I think the most fearless I think I've seen you, speaking of scorpions, was one day on one of the transpo vans you got stung by a scorpion.
That's
right? Or bit, or what happened? Yeah, take it back. What happened with all that?
I don't think I was like fully stung because I was talking and there was like something weird. I felt some heat or something on my leg, on like my ankle. I was like, that feels weird. Almost like you you rub pepper on your skin or something. Like it was just like kind of warm and strange. And I looked down, I couldn't see anything. And then a few moments later, I moved my skirt to the side, and it's like there's a giant brown scorpion on my dress.
Remember that.
Okay, I was like, that must be it. And then, the van stops, it's moved out, everything's fine. I had like this tiny little welt on my ankle. It didn't like hurt, but it burned a little bit. And then we got out and we got like first aid and like bandaged it up. And then it was in like an hour, it was gone. So I don't think I was like stung. I think I was scraped or something. I think like whatever the poison is, like it scraped me. It didn't I didn't feel like it.
That's just because Liz is so tough. It felt like a scratch.
I am not messing with this demonic woman.
It like stung me. I was baby.
Yeah,
that reminds me.
You just need to know. You just need to know though, Liz, that like if I had had a scorpion on me, whether or not it had bitten me, the scene I would have made would have been so magnificent. Yeah. And you were just like sitting there with the medics, like, had a scorpion on me, might have gotten bit. I don't know.
It's a well.
It might have touched me.
Yeah. Just like, you guys aren't waiting on me, right? I can still do my scene.
Yeah.
Like,
do you need a scene? I'm good.
It feels like you have maybe, and just from the different stories you've told, it seems like, you almost kind of have a tendency to, you come up to kind of the decision-making threshold of, am I going to do this thing that's going to scare me or not? And it feels like more often than not, you're doing the thing that scares you, which is incredible and a very like brave trait to have. It seems like that has also, I mean, certainly paid off for you in your career and on different things that you've done. Is that, of course, I don't think that's necessarily like a natural thing for anyone, but is there, I don't know, is there like a way that you make those choices, or kind of what helps you kind of decide, like, this thing scares me, but I'm going to do it anyways? What triggers that decision?
I think that's a really good question. If I told you guys how scared I am of like acting and stage fright and like performing in front of people, I am so scared of it. Like I think the reason I cry a lot on set is because I'm just scared. And so like some of my performance is just like me checking in with like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. And then Mary starts crying. So I think that my relationship with my fears it's just like kind of closely tied to like, well, too bad. Like you don't get to do what you love to do and never be afraid. Like you don't get to have that big Bear Grylls experience where you're like looking down at this canyon without the fear first. Like it doesn't mean anything if you don't have that fear. You're like, oh, I'm just doing this thing, big deal. Like meaning kind of comes from overcoming fears. Not in all cases, but like for me, like my most meaningful experiences have been from like overcoming fears. So whenever I feel that fear, I always kind of have a sense that it's not always, but like kind of a signal that this is what to like try or step into or explore in a way that feels sort of like the next step to growth. I don't think that applies to every fear that we have. Sure. Like, I don't think like I'm scared of spiders, so I'm going to start hanging out with spiders or get pet spiders. Right. Like, I don't think it's that necessarily, but I do feel like the things that we're afraid of and avoiding sometimes are sort of like very loaded and very potent for the opportunity for like some sort of transformation or some sort of growth. And acting has always been that for me. I've always been scared of acting. I've always been scared of performance in front of people. I've always been anxious over all of it. But some of the most meaningful moments in my life have come from like overcoming that. And then you get this performance that you like, that means so much to you, or you find a new emotion, or you find a new thought and understanding of something that you wouldn't get to without crossing that threshold. So when I witness that sort of thing in a different scenario where it's not about acting, but it's something like Bear Grylls or something I'm like, well, I think it's safe to test it here too. So, you know, even in relationships, like commitment, I've always been afraid of. And finally I'm like, okay, like maybe commit, maybe really do this. And life after that has been bliss, you know, like, so like, I think that the things that we're afraid of, like, it's not always spiders and snakes. It's more, it's a lot. I think that's kind of life, right?
But man, that was great. That was a great answer, Liz. I think that's actually a very inspiring kind of view on it, right? Like sometimes, you know, like you're saying, like not every fear is a fear that we should conquer. Sometimes fear is fear is protective, but then sometimes fear is inhibitive. And I think like sort of identifying which one of these is that, and if it's the inhibitive one, okay, by overcoming this, does that make the next one easy? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, well, then I can take that next step. And then the other side of it is so much more rewarding because the step to get there was an obstacle overcoming, you know, or overcoming an obstacle.
Yeah. I think well said too, to just not all of our fears are worth like running head first into,
Right.
but like, but yeah, the ones that I think are sort of our own making, of like this thing that's blocking us from a life that we want to live, or a career path, or, you know, these amazing experiences. Like if there's something that's blocking you from that type of fear, I think is worth exploring.
So tell us about this fear of overcoming to meet old Stan, your husband. I mean, he must be a pretty incredible guy since
Come on.
since you know that was a fear for you, and now you've got, how long you guys been married?
We've been married 2.5 years.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Those sort of newlyweds, but yeah. Yeah, no, I've been afraid of commitment for a long time.
Yeah.
Some of that is just like maybe all too personal, but just not wanting to be like tied down.
Right.
Yeah.
And sort of focus on my career, and like and a focus on pursuing my dreams, and I think maybe even like I just needed to mature a little bit before I met him. And when I did, we really, you know, we got to know each other as friends, but we didn't really know each other very well when we got married.
Wow.
And so that was sort of like an instinct, I think. I think it was like this feeling and this knowing. And when we first met, there was a feeling that was different than I had ever experienced before. And so...
Well, it sounds like
and
your
then
Bear Grylls
just the more I
experience. You were just like standing at the cliff and you just jumped.
Come on.
down. It was, yeah. And I also like, I don't know, I had dated enough to know what the red flags are, and also what is real and what is like true love. And with him, it was, you know, the fear of like settling down with someone, but it was also this sort of overwhelming, like, no, this person really cares for me and really loves me in a way that I hadn't really experienced before. And I think I had to sort of confront the idea that like sometimes we mistake familiarity for safety, or familiarity for what's right for you. And so if you're in a relationship, one after another, where like it's not right and something's always a little off, or something's always a little wrong, or whatever, there's a sense that that's actually, because you've experienced that so much, there's a sense that like that is what is right for you. Is that like that's how all men are, that's how all relationships are, and a little dysfunctional, you know? So like, because that was familiar, I was expecting that with him. And when I didn't see that, and when I haven't experienced that with it, like there's a little challenge there of like, the things we're familiar with, or it doesn't mean that it's good for you. And when there is something that is good for you and it feels a little unfamiliar, that also is a little scary. Because there's always this feeling of like, when's the other shoe going to drop, or when's he going to show me who he really is? And, you know, this sort of like fear of disappointment or heartbreak, or, you know, these things that we experience as men and as women. I think everyone experiences. This is not just a female experience, but like the fear of getting hurt, just like you can shut yourself off from really wonderful things because of the fear of getting hurt.
We are straight up calling. We are straight up calling this episode "Girl Talk with the Brosen" because
yeah.
So good. That's so good. Thank you for sharing all that, man. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, it sounds like you've overcome every fear in your life. I mean, that's you've conquered all the things.
There's still death.
There's still death,
Yeah.
she says. Always on the table.
More.
Always on the table.
Mary Magdalene preaching.
Come Can I just say, isn't that what everyone does, though? Isn't that what, like, every human who lives does? Like, isn't that kind of all of us?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
life is horrifying, scary. There's so
relationship.
many fears, and, like, putting yourself out on the line with relationships, with your job, driving to work is scary. Like, there's just so, like, I just think everyone's always overcoming their fears. Like, you have to
Saying no to a guaranteed $500 to go to a callback in Dallas, and then fast forward to standing over whenever you and I are developing your biopic that I'm going to direct. You're literally driving north to
It's
Dallas.
called, because Willie's directing it, it's just called Tabish, and it's just like
It's called
Mary Magdalene's story.
called-
Yeah.
It's called Tabish or Not Tabish. The
Oh
Elizabeth
my
Tabish story.
You're driving north on I-35, which was still probably a relatively new thing. You said you hadn't driven much on highways and interstates, and you're driving north, and then all of a sudden you like this flash forward in your mind, and you see yourself standing over a high cliff, and you're like, am I scared? Do I not know my lines? And you're working on your lines, and then fast forward to Bear Grylls. Like, I mean, it's beautiful, man. Like, auditioning for Hair, saying yes to that, listening to your
itself. Yeah.
the head of the department saying you're getting old, and you're 26 years old. Shame on him. But he made a good point. He's like, get going, right? To the scorpion bite, to the this, to the this, to the this. It's just like, man, it's good
It's
stuff.
just like a series of jump cuts. It's a really short movie, but it's really evocative. It's very powerful.
Yeah, this is the teaser cut when we're pitching it, to get $100 million.
Liz, going back to The Chosen, being more Chosen-centric, and this is not near as emotionally loaded of a question as the past few have been. So
Get ready. Here comes an
we're
emotional
gonna
question.
get a little bit more lighthearted. What has been your favorite scene that you've worked on The Chosen? Yeah, there's a lot of good ones, so that's totally fair.
I really, really loved the Shabbat dinner in episode 2, season 1. That was, I think, so like the first few weeks of filming, it was just me by myself and all the demons. So it was like all just sort of like intense and heavy. And then the Shabbat dinner was the first time I met everyone. And so it was like the first time I worked with Jonathan and with Jordan and Giovanni. And it was like an immediate family. It was like this immediate, it was such a sweet scene too, and kind of funny and lighthearted. And I just remember that being like the first breath of fresh air within the show, but also with acting, of just like, oh, this can be really fun. It doesn't have to be heavy. It can just be a very sweet and meaningful scene. And
Beautiful.
And it was just really lovely to get to read the blessing and have Jesus sit at the table. It was just like, it was fun. And it was also really humble and small, and it was before the show turned into what it is today, and none of us knew if it was going to be successful or not. It was just very sweet and very humble, and I think that was probably like my all-time favorite memory.
I so well too. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, and I was going to say it feels weird now to watch that scene and see like how many few main characters there are, because you watch it and you're like, clearly there are people missing now. Like where's everybody else at? And it's coming. It's all just laying the groundwork for what's ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, a very cool moment.
And I still to this day think that scene was maybe one of the coldest I've ever been in my life. The Shabbat dinner, that was the day that it was snowing, and I remember talking to Chad Gunderson, one of the producers, and he was just like, it never snows in Texas. And then a year later it like had the
Snowpocalypse.
2 years later it had the snowpocalypse, during season 2, and I was like, it seems like it kind of always snows in Texas, so cool.
I remember after season 2, I told Dallas, I was like, y'all know about autumn and spring, right?
You've heard of
Like,
those?
you guys, there are 2 other seasons that we haven't filmed in yet.
Father either chooses he either chooses the hottest days of the year or the coldest days of the year, and his attitude's always, "It's good for you. It's good.
Yeah.
it's
Tell-
11 yards.
Not so extreme.
Why are you in the shade? Just get out. Just make it. It makes it worse."
Liz, what has it been like working with Dallas over the years? I mean, you were one of the first cast members of The Chosen. What and of course, obviously, have remained on the show throughout all the 5 seasons and more seasons to come. But what has that relationship been like with Dallas as a director throughout the process from audition, callback to now?
Well, I mean, wonderful. I think from the callback of just like meeting him and seeing how down to earth he was and different as a director. He was like, he cared so much about these characters and telling this story well. And, there was like a very collaborative spirit from the beginning and a sort of attitude of like gratitude from him too, which is kind of rare with directors. That he just seems so excited to like get to tell this story. And I think knowing his story and like how this sort of stemmed from a point of failure, perceived failure from a film before, and like I think that gratitude like came through to this project and has continued through because of that. And I think we all know, like, we were nobodies before the show. Like we were all struggling actors, and we know what it's like to not work. And so like there is this like sort of all pervasive sense of real gratitude. But then, over the years, just like there's the trust just continues to build. But it was there from the beginning, which is just such a rare thing. It really was. For those first few scenes, they were really scary to do. And there was just there was a sort of trust in him that he knows what he's doing. And then, you see the final product after those first 4 episodes. You're like, yes, this is nice. This works. Yeah. And this is different. This is a very different type of project. Whenever I'm struggling in a scene, he seems to know the right thing to say to sort of like unlock certain emotions. And I remember when I was filming the scene where Mary comes back from her relapse and she's talking to Jesus in the tent and apologizing. I was nervous to do that scene. It felt very important. I didn't want to mess it up. And right before, he was like, I just want to like remind you that you're standing in for everyone, for all of us in this moment. Which, as I'm saying that actually sounds like it should be very intimidating, like no pressure. But it wasn't that. It was whatever your reaction's going to be is the right reaction, because you're human, as we all are. And so like no pressure on yourself. It's all of us experiencing this. So there's just like some very meaningful insights that he always has. And on top of that, he's really funny. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
I want to ask
He is.
sometimes too funny at the wrong times.
That's
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's a catch with that one.
I want to ask another actor question, if I could. So,
Willie, you're out of questions. Sorry.
I know. Can I ask one more? I want you to know there's 100 that I've wanted to ask that I haven't asked, but I want to ask this one. This one just came up because you were talking about that and meeting him in the callback. For that callback and for this deal, did you research? Did you look up Dallas? Did you watch Resurrection of Gavin Stone? Did you read the Bible? Did you look at Mary Magdalene? Like, do you remember any of that, of what you did leading up to it? Like, did you check him out, or what did you do?
I think they sent some of the short films that he did of the disciples that I think Jonathan was part of.
Yeah, the 2 thieves. Yeah,
That could have been for the callback. I don't really remember, but that was, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have changed my mind about auditioning or taking the role or anything. Like, even if he had never directed anything before, I think knowing that he had helped write the script and had this sort of vision for it, and the way it was written and the way Mary was written, I just there was an immediate trust. If he made 10 films before or not, this project, there's some real, I think, faith in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
You focus more on the work and everything and just prepared. So cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because I mean, you can watch people's past work and it doesn't really. I mean, I've done some really, really terrible acting jobs, just like embarrassingly like that. But it was all necessary, and I needed to,
Yeah.
so I could watch it and be like, that is horrible, and you need to work on this, or you need to stop doing that weird eyebrow thing, and it's necessary to fail a bunch of times, as an artist of any sort of medium. You have to try and you have to fail. With actors, it is unfortunate that our failures, if you're in film and TV, are usually recorded forever. And you have to watch it again. But for most artists, you can paint something and it's really bad and you just don't show it. But for us, we have to keep trying, and we have to keep working, and we don't always get lucky with wonderful scripts and wonderful directors and crews and great other actors that you get to work with. That's a really rare thing.
Yeah,
and
it's really rare. You just get such a great first AD and a second. You can just,
True. Really, really true.
I'm kidding.
The background.
Wow,
the
you've chosen the
processing has
Brosen.
never been better.
Mistake.
Okay, so Liz, besides being more brave than all the other disciples and more tough and all these incredible things we talked about of you overcoming your fears, what is kind of more your relationship like with them? So we talked about Dallas, but your relationship with most of the disciples that you spend a lot of time with.
Well, everyone's really different. So it's all sort of
true.
I think that's what I like about the show too. All of the characters are so different, and the actors are so different. You would think that everyone would sort of merge into one group think, but it doesn't happen with this group. Everyone's got their own sense of humor, their own attitude about things, their own method of acting, and I feel like over the years, getting to know everyone, I've learned a lot from the guys and the girls. You get to watch incredible actors do incredible work, and so it's very inspiring. There's a trust that is built over the years. I have a really, really special place in my heart for everyone that worked on season 1, because we started this thing without knowing what it was going to be, and just immediately trusted each other, and immediately really loved each other in this way that shows on screen, which I think is part of the reason people liked watching it. And so there's this really tender spot with Jordan, with Paris, with Jonathan, that Giovanni, there's just everyone that was at the beginning, just I feel like we've all grown up together. I mean, it's been 6 years now. I feel like we've all gone through so much together and been there for each other, and have grown up together. And then as everyone starts joining the group, you worry that someone's going to get lost in the mix or something, but there's always moments to connect with everyone, and just have your own sort of special friendships with everyone, and get to know what makes people laugh, what makes people happy, what makes people mad. So there's, it's a family in the way that families can be, either all really loving and happy and laughing, or sometimes a little dysfunctional. Which
I
is,
love that.
Part of it. It's a lot of personalities, and it's all in one space. And for the most part, everyone is really respectful and wants to see each other shine. And so that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's
awesome.
cool to hear. I like that you touch on too. It's dysfunctional. It's not always cupcakes and rainbows thing. But
Well, no, I think that would be a disservice
Yeah,
to, like we're not cartoon characters. We're not like everyone's. It's not the Smurfs. It's like they're people with their own lives and their own stresses. And some years, some people are going through some heavy stuff, and other years, other people, and like it's. It can be hard.
I think I can speak from the crew side of it, though.
The scenes are hard.
Yeah, I can speak for the crew that, so many times you guys are amazing on set, even when you do have serious scenes or you've got stuff going on at home that's really tough. You guys are always so, you do make it fun. It's it makes it fun
You
for
guys
us.
make it fun.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Liz, another question. What is a dream project of yours? Any franchise or any theater, Broadway play, something like
Biopic,
that you're like,
anything.
as an actress, this is, before my career ends, I have to work in this role or I have to do this.
Great question.
I would love to do Shakespeare on a larger stage. But I think I could do that when I'm older. I'll leave that for
Well,
later.
according to your casting director, you already are. So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Well, it's time then. It's time.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
What Shakespeare, Liz?
It's so dark, y'all. I would love to play Lady
I was
Macbeth.
going to say you would make
Yes,
such a
Lady
good Lady
Macbeth.
Macbeth.
Well,
That'd be great.
You know why, you guys? Because I'm scared of it. Because I have fear about it.
I would.
Liz Tabish, Lady Macbeth. Oh my gosh.
Yes, please.
I love the descent into madness. I really I'm so scared and curious about doing that, and the dialogue for her is so strange, and and I've seen it done before on stage where it all makes sense. Everything she's saying makes a certain type of sense. So that, yes, someday, maybe soon. I don't know. We'll see. And then I would also really, really love to play an FBI agent for a sort of X-Files sort of thing.
Oh,
Nice.
That's fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Incredible. Yeah.
What's it?
I'm a
Scully?
big,
Is that her
Twin
name
Peaks
in the
fan.
show?
Yeah,
Oh,
Scully?
yeah.
X-Files,
yeah.
man.
Oh, you got Benji going.
Well, and my husband used to work for the DIA, so he knows
Nice.
I feel like he would be a very good resource for that. So,
Wow.
I think a sort of investigative type of character. Tired of crying, so anything that doesn't require that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I totally
absolutely.
get that.
That's
Those are my
awesome.
two, I think. But I also love Star Wars, so anything.
I was gonna ask, would you want to
Nice,
be
yeah.
a Jedi someday, swing a lightsaber, or
I would really love to be nice.
That'd be awesome.
would you want?
Love to be
Trading
a
in one
Jedi.
cloak for
Would you?
another.
Okay, Willie.
Sorry, I was just going there. I just want to do that too.
No.
Liz, would you want to be a Jedi master, or would you want to be a Sith, bad guy?
Sam, I thought you were gonna end up having a better question.
That's
and
why-
it was
that's
just
why I did the
what
lightsaber
type of
thing.
kyber crystal would you want in
Would
your
you hold it
lightsaber?
with your right hand, or would you hold it with your left? Liz?
Would you have been born on Naboo?
Favorite type of story and my favorite type of character arc is good guy turning bad and bad guy turning good. And I would love that, to be able to play both somehow, and that pivotal, that shift into the other is always the most fascinating to me. So whatever,
See, guys, it was a good answer. So I had
Sam,
a good
dude,
question.
she just made you look good. You screwed up. That's why I
That's
took the
right.
lifesaver thing, because I knew you were going to
Yeah.
say something stupid.
Good night,
like
guys. Good night, guys. Good night. Oh,
I hope we get
Yeah.
to see that happen, Liz. I would love to see you in any of those roles that you described. It has also been exciting. I know that you and I have worked together on projects that are outside of the shows, and we worked on The Shift together. I know that Adam and Sam worked with you on the best Christmas pageant ever. You've had kind of a handful of big, prominent roles in the past few years. yeah, I guess what obviously those are kind of different speeds, but I guess what were those projects like for you outside of the shows and for people who haven't seen them?
They were wonderful. So I did those two, and then I've got another one coming out in January, late January, called Between Borders.
What?
That in
Yeah,
that's
is
right.
that the one you did with Mark Freiberger?
That's right.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
she did that
Mark's
with
the
our buddy
director.
Mark.
No
Yeah.
way. That's awesome.
and he's wonderful. We filmed that in Romania. I finished filming that, and then 3 days later came to start filming season 5.
my
Whoa.
So it was a shift from a Russian accent into Mary Magdalene. So that
That's
was
insane.
fun. But it's about an Armenian family in the 80s. It's based on a true story, and it's really beautiful. It's really sweet and sort of framed with a sort of a trial of them coming into America and becoming citizens and so between that and then the shift was really fun. Very different pace, very different vibe altogether.
You played like 15 different versions of the same character. Yeah. It was insane.
There's a lot of costume changes. And then best Christmas pageant ever was so much fun and so silly. And I had the craziest wig, and I got to work with Judy Greer, which is pretty amazing. She's wonderful, and it was it was really
one of the
fun.
highlights of my young life.
Seriously.
So Liz, speaking of some of like the most fun moments, what is one of the most fun moments where you just laughed so hard on set, uncontrollably? It could be on The Chosen or it could be on one of these others, but when's one of the times? It's probably on The Chosen because we've had so many. But yeah, tell us one of those.
So many.
Yeah.
We laugh too much, I think, on our it's honestly sometimes like we get the giggles, or Jordan will say something ridiculous, and then like we have to perform these very serious and very like important scenes from the Bible. It is a challenge. There is a scene. I'm not going to explain any of this, but there was a moment in season 1. It was part 2 of season 1, where we were all outside and it was really hot, and I think everyone was just like delirious. And Jonathan went off script. I don't know if you guys remember this at all, but he started improvising his lines. And everything he said was so deeply disturbing and shocking and funny. It was not like, it should not be funny. And I won't say what any of it was, because I don't want anyone to get fired.
We would all be out of a
The
job.
Brosen After Dark.
And I was like, are we going to get fired after this? if we're seeing
No one's ever gonna. Yeah.
terrible.
I don't remember that.
guys
That's
can
so
ask me.
funny.
We can't talk about season 5 just yet, but when finally getting the scripts leading up to a season, what was the most shocked or excited or kind of like, whoa, I can't believe this is going to happen? Or obviously, I'd love to hear something that you're directly involved with, the relapse, or something where you read and you were like, wow, you were surprised, you were shocked that The Chosen was going to go there, or you were going to get to perform that, or it was going to be a big challenge, or whatever it was. What was the most leading up to it? When you read it, you thought, wow.
I had been warned about season 2, so when I read it, I was like prepared for it. And then I was warned about Rama for episode 3, season 4, and so I was expecting it at some point, but I think I was so shocked how soon it was, and like the way it was done, and like what actually happened. Reading that was shocking. Also, I was like, they're not really gonna do that, right? Like they're talking about it or something, or they're trying to make it into a very dramatic moment for Thomas, but like they're not really gonna do that. And then they did that, and that was shocking. And then season 5, there's a nice big scene with someone that that I was surprised about, and I was very pleased and very excited about getting to do that scene and to get to like have this this specific type of conversation with this person.
So Liz, I got one more question for you, Liz. What has been one of the most impactful moments throughout all of The Chosen? It could be a specific day or a specific scene. Yeah.
Like every year, there's something that sticks with you, you know. And my favorite scenes are always like the ones where it's just like, you know what it is, and it's a little outside of The Chosen, but doing the messengers and doing scenes with Vanessa. Some of my favorite moments as an actor, period.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it was one of those things, even in Dallas, it's like, I like doing these like two people sit down and talk scenes. I'm like, me too. Can I have more of that?
Yeah.
It was just that. It was sitting down and talking with Mother Mary at the end of her life. And getting to like reminisce on Jesus's birth and the swaddling clothes and her psalm, and like it just felt, it was so tender and it was so simple and so lovely to just have this moment of reflection so early on in the process too. It was right after season 2, but like it was like a moment to like breathe. I think that was even like before everything just really got as big as it is now. Like it was like the calm before a type of storm. And I remember just, feeling really grateful to get to tell that portion of the story, and to sort of spotlight Mother Mary's journey and her reflections. And I was really grateful to be part of that.
Wow. I love that answer, because I wouldn't even like, because we shot that so separate, it feels like a different world. And I didn't even remember it. Now bringing me back, I want to go back and watch that scene again, because that scene was
great
so
scene.
strong.
Yeah.
Yes,
Dude.
I want to go back and watch it again now.
Also, you got to be kind of aged up for that scene too, which I feel like is always probably. I mean, again, I'm not an actor, but I feel like that's got to have an impact when you are like, when you look in the mirror and you are physically different. Like that's got to be impactful too.
Yeah, no, it was so much fun, and we had done that for season 2, episode 1.
Oh right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that was just like, that was for like just a moment. It was like a line or two. But this was like living in at that age, living in that age, and it was old enough to feel like time had changed, but not so old like in episode 7 of season 4, like the really, really old age.
It is funny that you bring that up, Liz. I think I hadn't really thought about the fact that you've been aged up 3 times on the show. Like we've seen three different future ages of Mary Magdalene throughout the filming of the show.
6 years of experience, of seasons, of stories, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's been, I love doing the really old age makeup too with Paris. That was so much fun. Is he and like looking at him, he really looked
He looked
old.
terrible.
I mean,
He looked really bad.
Makeup.
Really, I don't understand the choice.
No, but he really weird, and just the way they did our skin. It wasn't just makeup. It was the latex, and it was like actual wrinkles. So like when you're up close, you really see wrinkles. It's not just like lines drawn, and it just you just see. You see your friend there, and you see them older, and it's a little surreal.
Do you have like, and I'm going somewhere with this question, but do you have like a selfie of yourself with the old lady makeup on? Because I feel like in I don't know, like 50 years, you should take a photo and see how well they did. You know what I mean? Like just be like, was it what was the natural versus the
That's a great idea. I do have a very awkward photo of me and Stan where he's just,
He's just standing.
and I am an old
Stands
lady.
like a
Oh.
vampire.
Wow.
Has not aged at all.
He was very sweet on set. He was like, you're so beautiful. He was so sweet.
That's
I was
so-
like,
Oh, come
Thanks,
on.
person.
We love Stan
Green
now,
flags.
more than ever.
Green flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, green flag.
it's really cool that he got to play
Here we
a
go.
Roman.
Here it comes. Yeah, he's trying
Oh.
something.
We
He's
just
trying something.
we
here.
just want to, Liz. Because of that, we just want to thank you for having chosen.
It doesn't
the
even
Brosen.
rhyme. It does not rhyme. Roman.
Roman chose.
does not.
Okay.
I'm about to close.
Oh! Whoa! Liz Tabish shows in the Brosen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.